The rumor spread long before the truth ever surfaced. A quiet single dad worked at the edge of town, pushing a mop through silent hallways as if he carried the weight of the world on his shoulders. No one knew why his eyes held storms. No one knew why he walked like he was ready for danger at any second. And no one imagined that beneath his worn uniform lived a man once feared by warlords and respected by commanders. But all it took was one ordinary morning, a spilled cup of coffee, and a CEO with a broken heart to pull him out of the shadows he had buried himself in. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that heal the heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Touch of Kindness. Your support helps us bring more life-changing stories to the world. It was a bright, warm weekday morning when Soren Hale pushed his small daughter's wheelchair up the gently sloped sidewalk toward the towering glass building of Meridian Tech International. Soren, a 37-year-old single father, had the kind of strength that didn't show through muscle alone. He wore a simple gray shirt, tucked neatly into faded navy pants. His hands were calloused, his hair slightly overgrown, and his face carried a quiet seriousness that made people instinctively keep distance. Those who noticed him labeled him as the janitor who hardly spoke, unaware that he once commanded specialized rescue units in countries people couldn't even pronounce. Soren's daughter, Alira, was 8 years old, her legs weakened from a difficult condition she was born with. Despite her struggles, she had a smile bright enough to warm steel. Every afternoon, Soren brought her to the company courtyard fountain because she loved the sight of water dancing under sunlight. Soren worked the early shift so he could give her those small moments. He lived for them. Yet, behind his steady routine, life carved new wounds every day. Medical bills towered. His body still carried injuries he never treated properly. And at night, when Alira slept, Soren fought memories of missions gone wrong, of soldiers he couldn't save, of lines of fire and cries echoing through his dreams. He worked to forget. He lived to protect Alira, and he never expected anyone to notice him. But someone did. Her name was Aristia Vaughn, the young CEO of Meridian Tech. 33, sharp-minded, and known for turning failing companies into global giants. Her elegance was effortless cream-colored blazer, long ebony hair flowing gently, expressive eyes always scanning for the next opportunity. But beneath her confidence lived loneliness. She carried heartbreak from a broken engagement that shattered her trust in people. That morning, Aristia stepped out of her black SUV, juggling a handful of project folders. The moment she reached for her coffee cup, it slipped. The scorching liquid splattered across her wrist, startling her. Several employees pretended not to notice, afraid of getting too close to their powerful CEO. But Soren didn't hesitate. He rushed over, instinctively assessing the situation. His movements controlled yet swift. He gently lifted her wrist under the cool flow of the courtyard fountain. The moment his fingers touched her skin, a strange stillness formed between them, a pause, a recognition, something unspoken but deeply human. To Aristia, the janitor's eyes seemed to see straight through her carefully built armor. To Soren, her trembling breath reminded him that even the strongest people carry hidden wounds. He stepped back as quickly as he came, pushing Alira's wheelchair and disappearing into the building before Aristia could even thank him. That small moment stayed with her longer than it should have. Aristia began noticing him everywhere, polishing glass pals, fixing broken locks, clearing the courtyard at dawn. He moved like a man trained to anticipate danger. His posture was straight, his senses always alert. Even the security team looked oddly intimidated by him. And then, one afternoon, Aristia stepped out onto the courtyard balcony and froze. Below her, Soren knelt beside Alira as she tried to draw the fountain on a small sketchpad. His smile, soft, warm, patient, was like sunshine after a long winter. The way he tucked a loose curl behind Alira's ear awakened a yearning she thought she had buried forever. Over the next days, she found excuses to cross paths with him. First by asking about maintenance concerns, then about the courtyard, then simply, "How are you today?" Soren remained polite but distant. He didn't want complications. He didn't want attention, especially not from a CEO who deserved someone with less baggage, less danger in their past. But stories have a way of unfolding even when hearts refuse to open. It wasn't until Aristia accidentally overheard a conversation between two older employees that the first clue about Soren's truth surfaced. They whispered about how he once stopped an attempted mugging outside the metro station without breaking a sweat. Another claimed he lifted a fallen support beam during a warehouse accident to free an injured worker. The stories sounded exaggerated, but Aristia's curiosity grew roots. Soren noticed her watching him one evening as he repaired a broken courtyard railing. Sunlight cast a warm glow on the scene. Birds fluttered above the fountain's mist. Alira laughed softly while showing Aristia her sketchbook. Aristia knelt beside her, pointing at details and admiring her drawings with genuine delight. Soren looked at them from a short distance. Something inside him warmed and tightened at the same time. He wasn't used to kindness from strangers, especially not kindness directed toward his daughter. One moment changed everything. During a routine safety inspection, a high-tech drone malfunctioned on the rooftop. It spun out of control, flying dangerously close to a group of employees taking a lunch break near the edge. Panic erupted. People ducked, screamed, ran, except one man, Soren. He reacted before anyone else even understood what was happening. His body moved with precision. He had sworn he would never use again. He sprinted toward the employees, shielding those closest, then timed the wild drone's pattern, grabbed an emergency tarp from a nearby crate, and lunged upward. In a fluid move that seemed impossible for an ordinary janitor, he flung the tarp over the device, tackled it, and disabled it. Aristia saw the entire thing from the hallway window. She was the first to reach him. He wasn't injured, but he looked shaken, not from the drone, but from the fact that his past had resurfaced in front of everyone. He helped two trembling employees stand, reassured them, and tried to walk away quietly, but the crowd grew around him. Question, praise, curiosity. Someone blurted out, "Where did you learn that?" Soren tensed, his secrets pressed against his ribs. Aristia approached gently and led him away from the noise. They walked to the quiet courtyard, daylight shimmering on the fountain's surface. Soren rested his hands on the railing, breathing heavily. Aristia stood beside him, her voice soft, almost afraid of pushing him too far. That was when Soren finally let his walls crack. Not through confession, but through silence, the heavy silence of someone who had lived through more than most could imagine. Later that week, a retired military officer visited Meridian Tech headquarters for a consultancy meeting. The moment he spotted Soren in the hallway, he snapped to attention, eyes widening in disbelief. The recognition was instant and absolute. "Soren Hale," he said quietly, voice filled with awe, the ghost guardian himself. The officer didn't shout it, but someone nearby overheard, and whispers spread like wildfire. Aristia searched online that evening and found fragments unclear. Files, classified missions, rescue operations in unstable regions, a soldier who disappeared from the radar 8 years ago, a legend whose identity was wiped from public records to protect him after a catastrophic mission. Her chest tightened. The janitor who saved her hand, the single dad with gentle eyes, the quiet man who never bragged or boasted. He was once a hero the world never got to thank. Yet he was living in shadows, mopping floors and avoiding attention. The next morning at sunrise, Aristia found him sitting at the courtyard fountain. Alira dozed lightly in her wheelchair beside him, holding a small blanket. For a moment, Aristia simply watched them. Soren's head was bowed, his expression filled with fear not of danger but of being exposed. Aristia sat beside him. The warmth of dawn wrapped them both. Soren confessed not in detail, but enough. Enough to reveal why he hid, why he worked quietly, why he feared that his past would one day follow him home and put Alira at risk. Aristia didn't judge him. Instead, she thanked him. Not as a CEO, not as a woman searching for strength, but as a human being grateful that heroes still existed. From that moment forward, their connection deepened. Aristia found comfort in his protectiveness, the way he carried himself with quiet dignity. Soren found peace in her compassion, the way she treated Alira like a precious gift instead of a burden. Months passed, and their bond grew naturally, gently. Soren started smiling more. Alira painted pictures of all three of them sitting by the fountain. Aristia discovered that loving someone didn't require perfection, only presence. On a bright afternoon, when cherry blossoms drifted across the courtyard, Aristia invited Soren and Alira to a community event hosted by the company. Soren arrived wearing a crisp blue shirt Alira had chosen for him. Aristia couldn't help but admire the transformation. The man who once tried to blend into shadows now walked with quiet confidence, accepting the admiration of those who had learned who he truly was. But what moved her most was how Soren looked at her, not with fear or distance, but with trust, a trust.